Hey everybody, today I'm going to be looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and a few stocks to see if this is going to be a continued Santa rally or if we're going to get a pullback here. All right, everybody, so we're just going to jump right on into it. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. As everybody is well aware, we had a really nice move over the weekend, actually up to about 42K. So what does this leave us for the week, right? So if you're looking for a pullback to some degree, they may be shallow, right? So that's the only issue is, we're in a pretty strong uptrend. I know everybody is trying to catch a pretty decent entry, right? Looking for those higher targets. So just something to be aware of, right? At the moment, the trend is very much up, and then you should be well aware of some key levels along the way. So for me, we're going to take a look at the previous week range, right? So those are going to be some key levels that we can work off of for this week. We've got a weekly average of price. Excuse the dog. Coming in right here. So this is this week's weekly pivot, right? So this is going to be our statistical target of the week. Doesn't necessarily have to hit, but definitely an area you want to be, aware of. And that's basically all the way back down to 39,063. So we're a ways away from that at the moment. And, what are the pit stops along the way and the regions that we want to be paying attention to? So I've got a really local gold pocket pulled up here. And this is just from, the last little push up, I think it was on Sunday night into the high so far, getting a little push up at the moment. Definitely not, even though that the price action may still continue higher, these are high risk areas to be getting long at, right? So it's it's one of those things where the risk versus the reward just has to make sense. And if that does to you, and if you're going to be okay with potentially holding 30% pullbacks, right? Because after moves like this, we are due at some point here, whether it's now or a few more moves. But in the short term, right, we're looking for a couple different things. So taking a look at this week's levels to watch, right? So we now have a new previous week range that we can work off of. Really doesn't become super relevant until we come back below the previous week high. I've noted this area is also our local gold pocket, right? So even if we did come all the way back down, get a bounce from this region, super normal, pretty healthy little pullback. It wouldn't be much, essentially 3 or 4%. But this is basically our major support at the moment, right? So coming down, getting that little golden pocket bounce here, the previous week high, definitely an area you want to look to. If you're looking to have it a little short, this is a take profit for sure. You got our VWAP obviously in the way here. That's going to reset in a little bit. But yeah, so just a couple of key areas here. Ideally to kind of have the idea that we're going to go on a little bit further here. We come back in, you basically lose and back test that previous week high. I'd definitely be targeting, it's not too far away, obviously, our weekly open. And then if we do lose that, then it's a pretty good chance we're going to come back through to this region here. We've got our weekly pivot. So that's our statistical target comes in here, comes in right at the previous week range high as well, right? So another take profit area or an area that we can look to for potentially a bounce. Essentially, if we continue on into this region, these would be the targets that I'd be looking down to for the week, right? So we've got an untapped daily level comes in right at the previous week point of control. This is essentially a naked point of control at the moment. So high volume target, especially if we get back into this range, that we'd probably come down and meet this here. We've got a monthly naked point of control down here at the range low. We've got a daily as well, all the way down here past the previous week low. So there's a good amount of things below us here. However, at the moment, you really do got to kind of stair step it, right? So we've just had a really big, nice move up. Wouldn't be too surprised to see a little bit of ranging in this region, right? Kind of fill out some areas for a bit. We got a lot of people excited, which is always a good thing for the space. And then, once again, claiming this region, obviously we're heading to new areas here. So in the sense of pullback territory, this is what I'd be looking for on Bitcoin, right? So previous week high, local gold pocket, you got your weekly open right there, about right at 40,000 on the dot. Our weekly pivot, which is basically the previous week range high. And then, really big eyeball on this region right here. And, just kind of showcasing that, these could potentially be, 5 to 7 to 10% pullbacks if we get it, which in the grand scheme of things isn't, doesn't seem as scary as it'll, look once we, if we were to start pushing down in that to that region, because we did just push up about 25% since the middle of November here, and overall almost 200% for the year. So a little 10% pullback into that region, definitely on the cards. So yeah, essentially, these areas are key at the moment. Not necessarily thinking we're going to get a straight flush at this time. This is one of those things where if we start to come in and start losing some of these regions, these would be like, these are honestly the few levels that I'd be really interested in at the moment, all the way back down to this daily, honestly. And this is where the quarterly VWAP comes in. So while we just highlighted that Bitcoin has pushed and rallied over 175% for the year, ETH has not really seen that same growth. Still a really, really great, impulse move from the low, about 100%. But I do anticipate that we will, see some continuation here. So right off the get, I'm just going to point out that the higher time frame targets, the next two that are going to be the most relevant to me, are really simple, right? So this gold pocket, which is from the 2022 high to the low, right? Comes in about $2,500 to $2,600, and then after that, very simple. Once again, the overall. Right, so those would be the two next major targets for ETH. But the key at the moment is to, really manage that position. And if you don't have one, right, it's a tough time because entry is everything, right? Unless you're going to be holding for years and years, and you can stomach wars and 50% plunges, and you just do not care that you're not looking to sell anytime soon. The entry is going to be key. So I really do like this region here, as this was a old range point of control, right? Comes in that area as well. So this is essentially the next range that's above us. Kind of box it out there for you there, right? So we've got 24, give or take, and then essentially the gold pocket here, right at the point of control of that old range. And if we take a trend-based fib pull from this last low to this high to the last low here, right? We see we've got a 1-to-1 coming in this region also. So there's just some good confluence for this $2,500, $2,600, $2,400 area that would just be the next major target. So simple enough. Those are the only two, honestly, that I hold any kind of credence for at the moment. Now looking for that entry, right? So what we're going to be looking for in the short term. And similar to Bitcoin, we've got a lot below us, right? So would be shocked at the moment, at least, if we came all the way back to these levels here. Definitely possible. Definitely, they make sense if it was to happen, right? But once again, you can't plan on that right at the moment. You can't marry it. I've got a local gold pocket here, pulled from the low to the high, comes in right between these two levels here. We've got November's untapped monthly pivot here. We've got a weekly naked point of control, and we got this gold pocket. So I mean, realistically, this is a good box to kind of be targeting at the moment. I mean, this would be the ideal area, to be honest. If we came back to this area here, obviously we'd have to evaluate as we came into it. But that would be an area I'd be looking for heavily. I've highlighted this region because this one seems the most realistic, and not even the most realistic, but just this one seems to be an area that it's got a lot of confluence at the moment as well, right? So let's take a look why. So we've got our quarterly VWAP coming into it, weekly naked point of control. So once again, high volume target, inefficiency in the market, essentially, right? It's kind of like a CME futures gap, right? Volume style. So this is an area that if we come back into this region, highly likelihood that we come back and hit it. On top of that, it's right below all these lows, which you have to imagine that anybody that's been long, getting long, right? They've got stop losses in place. This is a really good area for anyone getting in positions back here. Maybe they haven't moved their stop loss up. It'd be sitting right below there. So that'd be an area where someone's not taking profits along this region, comes back down, gets all the way stopped out before the move continues. So this one really does make a lot of sense for me. So once again, quarterly VWAP, weekly naked point of control. We've got our untapped daily level coming in this region as well. At our November range, right? So that now that the month of November is closed, this session is, cemented in time. So this will not change. So another area if we start to come back into this region, right, we can look down to And we've got the overall November low, range low comes in right at that daily level, right near this weekly NPOC. So, if we were to come down in this region, would be nothing to see something along the lines of this, right? Bounce through, come down, tag that NPOC, knock everybody out, weekly VWAP. Quarterly VWAP, and away we go. Managing our way down to that level. And this is all assuming that we just come down from here, right? So like I said, got targets above us. But if this is where we're going to start topping and kind of rolling over a little bit, this is what I'd be looking for some of these entry levels, right? Or some potential just short-term trade opportunities along the way. Highlighted a local gold pocket here. Once again, just from the last push up on Sunday into the high, comes in right at our weekly open. We've got our weekly pivot, right? So our weekly statistical target of the week. How far of a move would that be? About 5%. So, that would definitely be a pretty decent move to the downside there. Knock out some stops for sure along the way. And then looking at this previous week range, we've been really hammering around this previous week high. So came down below it earlier, but we've been holding it so far, right? So in theory, at the moment, you have to assume that we probably will, come back up and attempt this high at least one more time. Otherwise, just looking to, lose this 22.25. All right. And then for me, it's really the weekly open. If you come back and you start living back below that weekly open, so right at $2,200, which was our untapped monthly pivot target in the group for quite some time. So we'd have, which you can see we, came right up to and smacked. Obviously, we came through it later, but definitely an area you want to pay attention to. So we did come into this. If we do start losing that weekly open, then I really start heavily looking down. This is, definitely in the next pit stop here. And then we've got a daily naked point of control right at the previous week range high. This is definitely a nice little target along the way also. And then if we find our way into this range, we will probably cycle it to the downside, right? So that's how we would stair step it potentially for this week to come, right? So I'm looking down to this region here. You've got a bit of confluence stacked right here at this like 2020, 2040, this little $20 region here. So this is a big one, right? I wouldn't overlook this, just assuming we're going to go completely down. This would at least probably offer up a bounce, potentially like back up to the range high, stuff like that, right? So not sure how we'll see it, yet to be seen at the moment. But that is how I'd be looking at this in the terms of a pullback, right? So at the moment, still really have to look up. And I would really say like losing the 2,200. So it's a $40 move from where we are right now that you really want to kind of pay attention for. Ideally for that next long opportunity, could be any of these along the way, depending on how, you're going to set yourself up. If it's not going to be any leverage, then, obviously you can afford to be underwater a little bit if that's your strategy. If you're going to be introducing leverage to it, you'll have to be a little bit more patient, I think, with some of these lower levels and really paying attention to see if we come down, tag some of these, turn around early. But I would imagine that if we start making our descent from this level, we at least come down into this like 2020 region, potentially just run the previous week and then see how things look. So key level for me really is, 22.25, but, I would 2,200 even, just an easy one to just kind of pay attention for, look to get that, loss back test. And then you can really run a, potential short game, nice, almost 3%, 4%, get into the range. We're talking 7, last week's low. And then the ultimate would be to kind of come down in this box area here. So, so that's how I'd be looking at ETH. Stock market is not reacting the same as Bitcoin right now. So it's very interesting because even on a day like today where we had this huge impulse overnight in gold and Bitcoin and everything, crypto market held up pretty well and the stocks kind of took a little bit of a hit. So one thing I've been looking at for Apple here is this region down below for quite some time. It is the area I'd really be interested in if we came back down to it. This is the ultimate, downside at the moment for me, right? So it is all the way back down to like 150. It's quite a drop. There's a potential harmonic pattern here known as this is a bearish shark, right? That finished on a pretty nice fib time as well. And so far, has not captured this D leg quite yet, right? So until this area is claimed, this pattern is valid at the moment. And we can look down to a couple targets. right? So one of which I want to point out is the 0.5 fib, right? So this is from the overall low to this high. And it does come in right at the quarterly VWAP. So this is a big area to be paying attention for, as well as the B leg at 181. So in this $2 region, I'd be paying a lot of attention if we came down in this region. Once again, invalidates if we start to claim this level here. So looking down at these areas there, I've also got the 886 comes in at 168 and then come down and effectively take out the lows. The 113 is a major target down here, 162. And if we were to click on the 1618 to the downside, it lines up really nicely with basically this overall. I think that's last year's low to the high, gives you a nice gold pocket in this region. There's a quarterly untapped pivot, right? So a high time frame average of price. There's also a quarterly naked point of control, comes in all stacked in this region. So that's how I would kind of, look at Apple in the next bit here, and we'll see how things go into the end of the year, right? So Dollar General is like defying all rules at the moment, right? So this was actually is not. So I just want to point out that during a really big period of this year, while the rest of the market, let me see, was this? So this was the beginning of the year. Had a huge decline. I think like something like 60% from the high. Yeah, 60%. Just kind of really like took a tumble this entire year up until about October, where I was looking for this high time frame average of price, right? The yearly pivot here from 2019. We'd left it behind. We come down, we tagged it. We got a really nice reaction from it so far. And this has been months now at this point. But, just from that level there, you're talking about a 30% bounce. Really for me, I'm looking to see if we take it up, barring a short-term pullback. Even if we pulled it back all the way to quarterly VWAP, 15%, say like Apple comes down to some of those lower targets and everything kind of takes a 15 to 20% haircut. Dollar General does look like it probably will, take a journey up to these areas here. So regardless, this was my next major areas here. We got the 0.5, an untapped quarterly pivot would be a big one for me personally. That's a really big take profit, right? So that'd be a 76% move, and then just kind of reevaluate, see how things look if and when we get there. Otherwise, it'd be the gold pocket up here all the way at like $200. But 181 is a big one. We got to not cover Solana, so we'll go to Solana real quick too. So Solana, just a really quick overview. Next target is essentially $75 to $80. I think everybody can probably get on board with that. Did want to just kind of highlight where we've been so far, right? So this year we opened up basically right at $8. We rotated the yearly range for 2022 back in October, had a breakout, and our target for the year was our yearly pivot right here. So similar to that Dollar General chart, similar to how Magic was able to target $27,000 on Bitcoin when we were trading at 15. How we targeted 1990 for Ethereum when we were trading at 1100. This was all back at the end of the year last year. These are some really big mean reversions, right? So this is like a moving average that doesn't move. Price action returns to it, and we generally will get a decent reaction. So for Solana, honestly, it's a simple line in the sand right here at 66. It does have, just happen to be the current high at the moment. So live above $66. We're probably running up to that next range, comes in about $80. Point of control of that is 90. Otherwise, this is an area where, it's hard to get long right into it. It's definitely resistance because we could very well see a decent pullback. And I'm, kind of eyeballing this like $43 region here, if so. And just to show the importance of that yearly pivot, this was last year, right? Boom, boom, boom. Price returns to that average. Did not get back above. Obviously, we were in a different state of the market. But it's a key level, really, 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 really key, really big. You just want to pay attention for. So if we clear it, start living above it, daily closes above, then yeah, we're probably going to go see that $80 target. Otherwise, this was a really big take profit for me. This was actually no leverage was in this trade. Just picked up a bunch over the course and then was targeting to this area. From the low to high, you're talking about a 700% rally. So Solana probably wouldn't be the first thing that I would chase and jump into if I'm looking for just some new position. So just kind of keep that in mind, right? Could it pump higher? Absolutely. But you are at risk at this point, right, of this coming down. And, potentially 30%, 50%, potentially not at the moment. That 30% drawdown looks, like I said, it's got my attention. Weekly NPOC, quarterly VWAP. We essentially kind of back test this range a little bit, depending on how we come down to it if we do. but that would be the next area I'd be looking for. So we'll see if we clear that 66 or not. Just want to take a moment and thank my sponsor here, BingX, which is my exchange of choice. After basically running through every exchange, I feel like ever since FTX and Bybit and KuCoin, the KYCs, it's made it a little challenging here in the States, but I have successfully ran through a good amount of, if not all of the exchanges, at least the most top side. And I've really narrowed it down personally to BingX, and for a few reasons. One is I feel like it's a mix of Robinhood mixed with Bybit, mixed with KuCoin, which is an interesting one. So you can not only trade crypto, you can also trade stock market assets. It does require a VPN for the stocks. You don't have to put on a VPN otherwise. There's no KYC. And then there is a ton of spot coins on here as well, as you can see through here, right? They offer some pretty cool deposit bonuses, as well as just, bonuses that drive you to utilize the exchange daily. You can unlock rewards pretty much anytime you come in, and then every deposit you make as well. Giveaways, and they have really just top-notch customer service is what I've really found to be also a really important factor. So one of the reps is actually in our Discord server, very responsive, at least to myself, and willing to answer any questions to anybody in the group. Hasn't really been any quite yet, but he is there. So it's really nice to kind of have that. There's a link to join BingX down in the description here. Also, be sure to check out leadingcrypto.io. Link to this website is also in the description down below as well. Here is where you can gain access to myself, Magic Internet Money, Max, and pretty much get all of access pass to our analysis for Bitcoin, order flow, open interest, Ethereum, altcoins, pretty much you name it, right? So we do have a free portion that you can join, kind of chat around if you'd like. After that, if you become a member, you can come onto the website, log in with your Discord credentials. You can choose the Academy here, where we have over 9 hours of educational content, goes through the resources and the tools that we utilize every single day. That'll help you kind of get up to speed and understand, what we're talking about, what we're looking for, and why. And if you're interested in joining that, just click on member plans, and you can actually get a full week for free. So we're doing 7 days completely free, full access. You'll get 2 member-only market updates in that 7 days. You'll have 7 days of the entire 9-hour course, which you can essentially run through if you wanted to. And if you feel like it's not for you, obviously you can cancel before that is up, before getting charged. Otherwise, be sure to check it out. And I will see you all in the next video.